And before I go into the detail of what I'm planning to share, more of what was more yearning and longing for more to give is on YouTube and on the 3 weeks and the Beit HaMikdash. But I thought I would share something a little new, and then some insights that can help us this next 3 weeks, especially with the Hora of the Rebbe. I'll just give you a little explanation about how the 3 weeks were for me before studying Chassidus. We lived in Israel, and we went from gate to gate on the fast, in the Chamsin of Chamsin, and crying and yearning and wanting, Mashiach now. Chassidus came into my life, and the Rebbe would teach us that it's really now like bechitzonius, we're doing the morning, but it's like
on the surface.
Right, like on the surface that we're doing the halachas of the 3 weeks, and it looks like we're mourning, but really on the inside we're really preparing ourselves for the celebration that's about to happen. So it's 3 weeks, we're doing it on the outside, but on the inside we're like beginning to celebrate because what's going to unfold. So for me, that really brought more simcha to my life, because personally, when you get too involved in sad things, it could lead to more sad and more sad. Like Chassidus teaches us that we shouldn't even really listen to sad music, because it's just going to lead to more sadness. So when I got that free prescription to let a little bit of that sadness, even during the 3 weeks, I was just able to even be happier in the service of Hashem. So I hope even just that, to give you that little message, Dayenu. I was learning with Rabbi on Or Chadash. There's Rabbi Targman, and he actually talks from the Slonim Rebbe that during this 3 weeks, if you count the days, it's 22 days. And these 22 days actually is the letters of the Torah, from Aleph through Tav. And it's like a time period that we're preparing for the 22 days of the high holidays coming up. And the mashal that was given is like a canvas with all the lines, and we're going to go through the motions of these 3 weeks, preparing ourselves so that come the Tishrei time, all of the happiness and the joy and the tshuva that's like the highest order of tshuva, with happiness and joy, will fill in the structure that we built these 3 weeks. So this is a very holy time. It's really the backbone and the foundation of the structure of our whole year. Because come the preparations and the involvement in the 3 weeks, starting now, we'll be able to fill it up. But of course, depending on how we make the structure. And when I'm seeing so many people learn here today, you got it. I'm just like, I was so impressed. Something I recently read, also, it comes from the holiday Mamarim, and it's the Tzemach Tzedek, and it talks about the unbelievable moment in time when the destruction was happening, and the goyim were walking into the holy temple and slashing the curtains of that was facing, the Aron, right? Because there was curtains there. And if you remember, the story was that 22 years before the building, when Shlomo Melech was preparing and building all the Beit HaMikdash plans, he actually designed also an underground where he knew that there was going to be a time where the Beit HaMikdash would be destroyed. And it was going to be a time, 2 years before the destruction, where they were going to put the Aron and the Luchos and the 10 Commandments down in this holy chamber down under. And so when the destruction actually happened, and the slashing of the curtains happened, there was blood oozing out of this curtain. And the question is asked because when you were seeing on the curtain, there was like a projector of what was going down under, in really where the Aron was. Because as you know, whenever the Jewish people were so united, the two Kruvim would be looking at each other, and when there was no Avas Yisrael or lack of love of one another, then the Kruvim would look away from another. So when this was happening, the two Kruvim, we couldn't see it because it was on this curtain, because on this curtain was a projector-like image of what was going on down under. And when the Goyim took out the curtains and showed all these curtains and everything that was, being paraded outside, look, we are the victors, they saw, and the Jews saw, that the Kruvim were hugging one another. So even though it seemed like God was abandoning us, he was actually hugging us the most, saying, this darkness, this constriction of time is going to be for a good. It's from a love that this is happening. And the blood represented this passion, but it also represented the idea of our life force. And the Tzemach Tzedek actually explains to us that it's very fascinating that the first Beit HaMikdash, when it was destroyed, it was only destroyed for 70 years. And it was very interesting because they were involved in a lot of not so nice things. There was idol worship, and there was all kinds of idolatry and adultery, and it's just really serious sins. But the destruction was only the 70 years. And the second one, even though there was not these hideous crimes, it lasted for so long. Why the difference? And the Tzemach Tzedek actually explains that during the time, although they were doing such hideous crimes, there was an honor of the Torah, believe it or not. They were studying Torah. And the studying of the Torah acted like a remedy for the ailing souls and the ailing sins that were just making the whole community sickly, as it were. At least they were studying Torah, and the studying of the Torah actually was like a cure and kind of banished out the wickedness of what was going on. Whereas the second temple, there wasn't that. And because there wasn't that, then that's why it's been so long. And the blood represented this losing of the source of the vitality and the life of the people, because they weren't learning Torah when that was happening and coming out of the curtains. So we can see how critical it is to learn Torah. I mean, everything you were teaching, I was like, exactly. It's amazing to know that the cure and the healing of the people as a whole, to be protected and to be just completely protected from the enemies. But we also learn there's what's called an avenger, and there's an enemy. The Torah learning protects us from the outer enemies. But the avenger that's inside of us, mamish the ruach shtus, that is inside of us, Torah learning protects us from. In Tanya, we are taught that all mitzvahs act like garments, shielding us. And but Torah learning is a shield and the food for the neshama. So as much as we need to do mamish in action the Torah, but we have to really understand how powerful our learning Torah is not only to protect us against the enemy from the out, but the enemy from within. Mamish, it's a shield against the Ruach Shtut, which is the spirit of folly. When we learn Torah, it protects us from all these outer forces of negative thoughts. In Tzavat HaRivash talks a lot about how Dveikus is dependent on learning Torah. The Baal Shem Tov tells us how it really helps protect us against alien thoughts. It protects us on the inside and on the out. And that's where, when we learn about the Beit HaMikdash, one of the main messages I love giving over, and since we're not doing the whole thing, was but the portion of the Aron that is behind those curtains that were oozing out, and it had like 3 sections. The boxes that contain the Beit HaMikdash, inside the Beit HaMikdash was the Aron, which had the tablets, the 10 Commandments. And the message, why there was these 3 boxes, is as follows. The gold on the outside represented our outer behavior, and that we really have to work hard in refining our outer behavior. But also the inner box, was teaching us that we need to work on being like gold on the inside. Because, so many times people can think that, and especially, for me, I remember having those experiences, thinking that, at least I didn't yell, or at least I didn't, lose my cool, and I handled the situation, I was patient, but inside, woohoo, it was like still going strong. So there was a story of a chassid that was trying to explain to his father that Chassidus is so amazing, and the father was like, what? I don't get it. Everything is here what I've been teaching you. And so this chassid then decided to do a little trial on him to show him how that really Chassidus is so important to really cleanse our inside. And what he did was he said, well, Chassidus teaches us to be able to think of what other people think about. And so the father was like, what? Yeah, let me show you. Okay, so then what am I thinking about, the father said. You're thinking en od milvado, which means there's nothing but Hashem. And so then the father says, no, I wasn't. And so then the father realized, the son got him. You see, Chassidus helps you have, even on the inside, the thoughts constantly on Hashem. Then there was another story, kind of same scenario, around the same time. And there was a chassid who was trying to convince his father how it's so important to learn Chassidus. But again, nothing was penetrating. And so he decided to another kind of test on him. And he put him in a wagon, and he hired the wagon driver to act like a shikr, to act like a drunk driver, and he was driving erratically. And then he followed the wagon and met his father as he came out of the wagon. And it was an incredible moment, because the father came out and he said, if I had the sword of Bilam, oh my gosh, the ride was crazy, but at least I handled myself. So the father said, yeah, you were thinking that the whole way? Yeah. It was, because he was like feeling like at least he didn't, hit the guy. But the son then said, but if you had the inner essence of Chassidus there, then you would be able to have enjoyed the ride. Because you would have realized all is from Hashem, everything is destiny, and you would have been able to enjoy what was happening. So we want to pat ourselves on the back a little. We handled it. We didn't lose our cool. But there's an inner goal that we can still attain, because we all have the Holy of Holies within ourselves. And the Alter Rebbe actually teaches us that the thoughts are closest to our soul. That even worse than the sin of some of the worst sins you can imagine, the effect on our kishka and our soul when we think negativity is even more than having an engaged in that deed. So we want to be a gold on the inside, and we want to be a gold on the outside, and Torah helps us. You know, I feel like, you know, so many times people do not connect thoughts with actions. Thoughts create actions, because thoughts create emotions, and emotions create reactions or inaction. So, you know, one time, I'm telling you, this happened to me, and I feel like every time I tell a story, it's like kind of hard for me because I'm living the experience again, just my nature. So I'm running to get to the post office to deliver something that has to get to a certain time. Raining, wind, like, I finally get to the post office, and I was waiting and long line. Finally, I get there, and they say, "Sorry, no more. I can't help you with this. You have to go on that line, and we're closing, so you can't be helped." I'm like, "What?" And I was frustrated. This was like many years ago. Frustrated. Why did I ran so I must have lost 10 pounds. So I'm running here. All these different thoughts and negative. I got so frustrated. I started walking home, and then ding, 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 the idea came how to solve the problem. I'm like, why didn't I think about it before? I was so frustrated. That night, because I write to the Rebbe every night. I once was in Rabbi Majeski's class, and he said, write good news every night to the Rebbe, and you'll have more good news to write. Well, wasn't such good news, but I write to the Rebbe with good news. But so many times he answers me questions of mine previous that I'm not even bringing it up. So in the letter was, when you're more meduyak, when you're more meticulous in your mitzvahs, and when you learn Torah, then Hashem will give you the divine inspiration to know how to act and how to solve problems. I was like, unbelievable. And that's what we're taught. That when we learn Torah, it taps into a slight nevuah of a sort. That Hashem will give us the inspiration to know how to act and not to act. And also to be able to be, there. Torah learning also really protects us from a major ruach shtus of today. As a counselor, all I hear is, and I'm going to put this book up, amazing book, also Alone Against the World. It's the Torah Antidote to Loneliness.
Who wrote it?
And this is Rabbi Yisrael Roll.
Are you recommending that?
I recommend it. It really helped me in so many different ways. I have to write to the author as well.